Design is, what you're really trying to do is you're coaxing emotions out of the end user in a moment that is very precious. Sometimes you have seconds to do it, whether you're shopping on Amazon or you're walking through in a brick and mortar store, the actual product, or you go to a friend's house, you might see it. The judgments occur really fast nowadays, so you don't really have much time to connect. Connection is what it's about. This is, at the end of the day, your design is all about connection. You're connecting a brand and that end user and what their expectations are and the relevancy of what their problem and needs are to what that client can offer them, what that brand can offer them. That's the key. And you're the ambassador as a designer. You're the one that brings these together. You're kind of the creative synapse between the brand and that end user. It's all about making this connection. So when you're designing your portfolio, it's the same thing. You have got very short time span of people like me looking at your portfolios. It's like clean, good design, don't overdo it, be concise, but please stand out and please have a point of view. I like a point of view more than most people that hire, because I think that really the awesome work comes from individuals that are pretty unique. I think that's why one of the things that attracted me to go to Frog Design is it was just a bunch of crazies. It's just like, these people are cool. And they were all fighting all the time, and I tried to deal with that, but.
Sorry, what do you mean by like your own point of view, like your own style?
Yeah, your own style or your own, we all follow these processes, right? But, try to invent something or have a perspective that was different. Like I was following this process, and then I learned this, which made me go way back to the beginning and start over with a new point of view and somehow expose this in your work. And then the other thing is, the medium indeed is the message, right? It still is, after that very famous quote. So you got to make sure that portfolio really sings, just make sure it's balanced and it has all the right content. Use good typography. Use information design, communication design. Even if you're a 3D industrial designer, still, it's about communicating what you've done, because we don't know. Designers are often in their own heads, and they just think, well, if I draw it, then everybody's going to understand what this is. No, they don't. I'm amazed. Sometimes our clients are a little dense. They don't even understand what they're looking at. But it's not their problem, it's our problem, because we're not really using the proper tools to put it on a surface where they can understand it. And that's a really big challenge being a consultant, by the way, because you're working with so many different kinds of people. Okay, this is really, when you think about especially products and UX and all the things that we do throughout the day, brushing your teeth, playing the guitar, cooking, what are we doing? We're interacting with artifacts, we're interacting with experiences and ideas that someone or a team and a company thought of years before. They were trying to think about, okay, how are people going to cook? How do they want to hold things? And this has been going on for a long, long time. It's like a covert covenant that has been happening forever, and that is, we as designers, we're conspiring about how to create an experience that's going to happen in the future, and you have to use a lot of psychology in order to create the right perception of the thing that you're designing. And again, it doesn't exist yet. But what we're really trying to do at the end of the day is make these really solid connections. This is a little corny shot, but that's kind of what we're trying to do. You want this kind of feeling when you have really good design. But how do you do that? The first thing you have to do is, as a designer, you imagine. Ooh, has this suddenly got on a? Hang on, my bad. As a designer, this is what you need to do first. You need to really imagine, like, what does my end user expect? And you have to imagine this desired percept, because it's all about creating perception. This is just pure psychology. And then as designers, you have to get, the distal stimulus, the way that all of our sensory input is actually informing our perception of things. You need to craft this. This is the act of design here. The proximal stimulus is finally how you feel about it and what's going on inside your head about something. And then you have that formation. The formation occurs. So what that means, I don't mean to get too psychological on you here, but that means that when you've worked with your company that you're consulting for, in the case of a consultant at least, you have listened to what the client's problem is, you've talked to the end users, you've done your research, you have helped them make this final connection to the end user by understanding these depths of perception. And the way that we do this, this is a greatly simplified process. It just so happens to spell esteem. Isn't that convenient? So here's why I wrote this. So one is, you hear a lot about design thinking. And design thinking is really, really important. But I think in the last 5 years especially, designers are not talking enough about these perception ideas that I was just talking about, and seeing. And seeing is not just looking at something, it's when you're really observing, when you're feeling something, when you're seeing, there's something so powerful that's happening. It's emotive problem solving. A lot of designers and design firms have forgotten this. I think that S is, for me, the strongest part in this whole process. It's the most important. Thinking is more logical problem solving. Then, of course, once you have the kind of the foundation for what you're about to create, in order to make this perception a very positive one, is you begin to explore. You guys are learning all that right now. Then you evaluate, and then you finally make it. Now, this is oversimplified, of course, but it's kind of again, design has to be sticky, but the idea of how you create design also has to be sticky. So remember that when we talk about portfolio and design communication and everything, think about it from your own perspective. There's a lot, you can go online, look at design process, you won't see esteem. So again, invent it, but do it from your heart. There's some other fun little tricks you can do in design too that we do. There's many ways to connect, and here's some examples of that. This is a robot for a company called Busy Robotics that we did, and it's a one-arm robot that's low cost. It's not on the market yet, but the intention is it would cost about $1,500, and it just does basic things around the house. It will bring you beer, it'll water the plants, it'll walk the dog around your house. It'll pick up laundry and toys on the floor. And it was about like finding the right kind of expression for something like this. It was all about finding the right emotionality for this. Well, there's no speaker here, but I'm not going to play that whole thing, but it's too long. Anyway, it's emotional and it's kind of fun. And then there's another company we did this for, Martian Robotics, another one-arm robot. These kinds of things are coming. I mean, we're going to have robots in our homes the same way that we have blenders and food mixers in our homes. It's just a matter of time. Anybody interested in robotics here? Yeah, okay, a few of you. This is a really interesting field for us because design is like so multi-dimensional when you're designing a robot. It's not just about what does that passive thing look like when you're looking at a chair like this. These things move, and when something moves on its own, when it has artificial intelligence, it automatically has kind of an anthropological quality to it, and it gives it a different dimension, a different dynamic that is It's really quite wonderful when you design these things and they're actually coming up to you and talking to you, and you just can't get out of your own head. You treat it like it's a pet. You can't help it. And I'm standing in front of these things. It's like it's just silicon and electrons and some memory. That's it. There's no emotion inside that thing. But that is a really great challenge for you guys as we're moving into the near future. Like, you know, really the only good examples of AI right now, unless you're a big data analyst and scientist where you're actually using AI to its fullest ability, when you're using Alexa or Google Home, that's the extent of what this society thinks AI is. AI will be coming to robots like we've never seen before, and this is an opportunity to design personalities, to design thoughtfulness, to design emotion, to design sadness, to design, I mean, well, that's an incredible challenge. Why can't we design that artificial humanity? It's not just artificial intelligence, it's beyond that, because these things are artifacts, and yes, they will have emotion. Sometimes you just want to build emotion. This is some kind of networking device we did a few years ago, and it's just kind of weird and wild. This is just purely using form and color and materials to make something very cool in order to excite a customer base. There's another networking device. We designed a lot of products for this company, TP-Link in China, and they sell about, I think they're selling like 500,000 of these a month. It's crazy the volumes that they sell. Just find that essence of goodness in whatever it is and keep digging and digging and digging until you find it. It's in there. Your job as a designer is to, like, first acknowledge and recognize that there's magic inside whatever this thing is, the technology. You haven't designed it yet, but you need to find, like, I call it the inner faculty. What is it about this, the potential of something? It might be an idea that you get from your client. It might be just raw technology. It might be a hunk of material. But what is this inner faculty, and how can I give it a voice so that it can suddenly pop, suddenly come into existence? And you know that feeling when it happens, because it either comes out in a sketch or you thought about it and you visualize something that's going to happen. And I'll tell you, that's the magic of design. Oh, there's one of the slot machines we did. It's totally weird, right? It's very different than anything else. It's not just a box. The thing is very high tech. It's very futuristic. We used a lot of glass, a lot of sustainable materials. And this has 4 times the sit-down rate of any other machine in the industry. In other words, people walking in to a casino, it's a 4 to 1. They will sit down at this. It's quite extraordinary. The math is the same on the inside of it. Your payback is the same. It's all design. It's design is what moves people. And of course, a lot of light. We're designing light. We hear about CMF. You guys learn about color material finish. We use CMFL because light is just another finish if you think about it. Light needs to be designed. That's what we learned from the designing slot machines, is the power of light. And now we know how to make anything glow, sparkle, come to life, and we use light like we would use surface and line. Connecting with ingenuity, what I mean by that is, as a designer, you really need to bring all of your intellectual powers to the fore. And that means getting your team to a place where they are willing to really try interesting ideas, working with engineering, working with marketing, where design is sometimes less about the art and more about the science. And this product for Google is a good example of that, where the challenge to us was the Google Maps, which get all of their information from cars that are driving around with cameras on the top. You've seen them everywhere, right? Well, that's fine for roads, but what happens when you want to document the rest of the Earth? Most of the Earth. What happens when you want to go into, say, Tokyo subway? How about Machu Picchu? How about the Taj Mahal? The task was to take as much of the technology out of the know-how from Google Geo, the Maps division, so that this content that could be gathered from this device that was worn on the back of a person could then feed right into Earth, so that now the content can really, truly be shared. And it's not just photographs. You'll notice there's cameras on this. We called it the Rosette. There's 7 cameras, really high res up there. And then there's 2 LiDARs. These are LiDARs. You see they're 90 degrees from one another because it's mapping the space. One is the horizontal topography, the other is vertical topography, and you bring these together and they create an algorithm where it completely maps it 3-dimensionally. So now if you have a map 3-dimensionally, if it knows where it is, now when you take pictures, when you go to Earth, click. Now when you go like this, that's why that works. All of the processing had to happen in here, so that's a computer, but it was getting really, really hot because it's all real time, so that's a huge heat sink on the back here. That's a big heat sink. We need to get the heat out, and there's 2 giant batteries down here. So it's kind of a big, strange thing. But again, it was about putting all of this ingenuity that partly Google gave us as a starting point, and then working with them, doing ID and engineering, making it into a real product. And yeah, it's kind of an odd duck, but by gosh, it works. It really works. And when you go to Earth now, you're going to be more and more and more, you'll be able to see things that you've never been able to see before. That's no excuse not to go to those places. But I just love that technology enables it, but designers and engineers' mind actualize it. And I think that's when design starts really making a contribution to the world. So now cartographers are using this, students are using this, everyone around the world is being inspired by the content that it gathers. And we are shifting more away from so much objectivity in the form of literally objects and matter into experiences and services. That's just a movement in design right now. And it's a good one because ultimately that's one of the best ways we can really promote conservation is through digital content. You can't always, there will always be the need for things like chairs and podiums. Maybe not podiums. No, I guess these won't be necessary to hold all this stuff. This is another cool example of just working with your client to do something pretty ingenious. So that headband is actually a mobile electroencephalogram. Electroencephalograms are very large, big, sheet metal, heavy, $100,000 boxes that require a neurologist to operate them. Only a neurologist knows what they're looking at. And it takes about 45 minutes, typically on an EEG machine, to get set up. They have to put goop in your hair to get a conductive connection between the sensor and your brain. There can't be any air in there. There can't be any hair in there. So the challenge came to us, we want to do a mobile EEG that's quick and fast to set up because people are coming into the emergency room having a seizure, but they don't know they're having a seizure because many seizures are subconscious and there's no movement at all, but the brain is seizing. If the doctor can't see that and know that that's happening, it can actually kill somebody within about 2 days if you let that go on. You can administer drugs and give them care if you know it's happening. So that was just a hard problem. How do we get the conductive gel How do we make this disposable? How do we make it so light and small so that it literally can be strapped on somebody's head coming in the ER, and within a matter of 6 minutes, they know whether or not they're having a seizure. The reason that works is if you look on the inside there, you can see these double sensors and these knobs. Believe it or not, you have to work your way through hair in some cases. And then you have to reduce the impedance on the scalp. So there's like a type of a silica that's on the end of these sensors that reduces the amount of dead skin that you have on your scalp. And then you press this tab up here, and that injects like a little, imagine like a little ketchup packet on the inside here. It breaks that packet and pushes the conductive gel through the holes in the sensor, which you can kind of see up there. That gives you the connection from the computer to your brain. And all of this is done in a matter of, literally, they got it down to 6 minutes. That's disposable, and you plug it into that device, and it gives you a complete brain scan profile. Then they propose one other amazing thing. Instead of the neurologist having to come around and read the brainwave signals to determine what's going on with your brain, Cerebell created an algorithm that turned that content into a sound profile. So now anyone, the nurse, or even a guest visitor, will know if a seizure is happening with the patient that might be unconscious or even asleep, because you can now hear this very strange noise that's coming out of this thing. So we took an electronic signal that was only visible, and we turned it into a sound. Just that changed this whole industry. And now these are in Kaiser hospitals and saving lives. That's what I mean by connecting with ingenuity. So you have to think hard about solving problems. I think a lot of designers, including some of you here, might think that design is just, I'm going to make something beautiful and simple. I'm going to make it look like Apple. It's not about that usually. It's about we get handed some doozies of problems. But don't forget, this is also really important. We're humans. What do you really, when you are really inspired, when you are really in your finest moment, what is going on with you? You're usually in a state of wonder. I'm not talking about you being high or anything. I'm talking about being in a state of wonder where you are just wow, what is that? What is going on there? You can connect with your design through that. So you can, as a designer, you can, again, the limitation is only you. But if you use your imagination to create this sense of wonder, and this is a really good example. That's a router. And like I said before about taking a kind of a dull project and turning it into something interesting, that's what I'm talking about. You turn it into something with wonder and thereby make it wonderful. And that is nothing more than exposing and positioning the existing polymorphic conformable antennas that is inside every single router. We chrome plated them, we made a window, we made those little babies the hero because that's what's doing all the work. That's also finding that inner faculty. And that happens with everything in design, whether you're trying to express something in a painting. The greatest painters in the world will find that. The Mona Lisa was all about that little expression. That was that inner faculty I'm talking about. When you walk into an interior where you are just all at once suddenly oh my God, this feels so comfortable in here. Why? That's it. That's it. That's all been crafted. You've got the power to create that. A lot of times that's all you need to do to make a win. Here's another, using this sense of wonder, because when this company presented this idea to us, we were blown away. This is a bioelectric sensor. Now, what the heck does that mean? a lot of things that are dangerous, pathogens in hospitals, explosives that might be in airports or in airplanes, give off an odor. But sensors nowadays detect motion, light, humidity, things like that, or like strict material things or motion things. But sensors can't really smell. So there's this doctor from Nigeria that presented this idea to us that worked. He's combined programmed living rat brain neurons to smell certain things, and he's connected them to the computer. Now, once you have information coming in that there's an odor here, all the computer has to do is read it. The promise there, of course, was, wow, these could be in like airports and smell explosives the way that a dog does. These could be in hospitals. These could be in schools. They could be everywhere, and these are coming. This is another frontier, bringing biology and technology and electronics all in one. And okay, so this thing is about this big around, and air comes in the top through those little holes, and there's a porous membrane that the air passes through, so that the air is exposed to a liquid bath with something that's a little bit like Gore-Tex on top of the fluid. And the living rat brain neurons are at the base of this fluid, and those neurons have receptors, and they're basically looking for what they've been asked. They've been programmed. You can program neurons. I didn't know you could do that. That's pretty insane right there. And what that cell is, it's looking for a certain molecule that's coming along in the air, and it actually will transfer through that little Gore-Tex type permeable membrane and send a signal to the computer. So the air is flowing in the top and out of the sides. Now, we wanted to make this look a little bit like it was biological. It's very organic. It kind of looks like some strange nostril or something, you know, like it is sniffing and breathing. This thing is breathing. So we wanted to make it look like a big cell or a jellyfish or something like this. And there it is in use in a hospital. But stay interested. Know that there is so much going on in so many other fields. That's where designers also need to really branch out a lot more than they do. You guys should just keep reading. I mean, that's another thing, the question about inspiration that you asked in the beginning there, that's another one. I just get inspiration learning strange things. Like last night, I needed to relax. I turned on YouTube, and I watched how you land a 777 at Narita. Like, why would I want to? That was really interesting. And it was about a half an hour. And it's all these guys, two guys, and most people would be like, God, it must have been boring. It was really, really interesting. So I don't know, I get inspiration by the strangest things. The sooner you can that'd be my advice to you guys, find that inspiration, like go out there and go to the edge. There's a lot of interesting stuff on the edge. In the center, it's boring. The edge is where it's at. Human touch, I can't say enough about connecting with human touch. This is so important to like really, and I mean this more in not just literally touching, connecting with people by just, like giving the ability to be tactile, have a tactile relationship with the design that you're doing. And we sense that. You sit in a really nice piece of furniture, you walk in a nice room, and you want to engage with things. You walk in an Apple store, you watch what people do, they're touching things all the time. But there's something more than that. It's when you can be like mindfully tactile. That's an interesting concept. So this is a camera that we designed it. We wanted to use like human touch. We wanted it to be gentle and interesting and very just beautiful. And all it's doing is it's just monitoring your home, but it's very adjustable. It's also functional. So it's got X, Y, Z motion like drop cam. We also designed drop cam. That's our most copied design. And it's now the Nest drop cam because Nest bought drop cam. Some of you might have one of these, the Tile. These are really popular. And talk about human touch. When people pick this thing up, man, it's just like a worry stone. And we've seen some of these already that they've been out for about a year. And I love when these are really used. They have a patina because the tops of these little pyramids here, they start to polish. And then the whole thing gets kind of three-dimensional. Again, when I talked about imagining a percept, you have to imagine it way in advance because it's not here yet. That's exactly what we wanted to happen. We wanted the tops of the pyramids to sort of get a little bit polished and a little bit dirty in between because they'd go matte. And that's exactly what happened because the percept was imagined way, way, way in advance. Human touch also has a lot to do with materiality. Material is so important to me as a designer. Just sometimes a design works simply because of how it's made, what it's made of, not only in the face value of the material itself, in the way that it looks, smells, and feels, but also in beckoning curiosity as to how you made something. And this is the Google On Hub, and it uses a 3-layered veneer that we were inspired by the way that the Shakers hundreds of years ago made their hat boxes. The way that they got the hat box to wrap around, they were steam bending it. There's some steam bending in here, but it's 3 layers of bamboo wood made like a plywood, and it's tapered, so it was really unique because the back has a seam. And just, again, design is all about detail too. The way that that seam, because of the grain, comes around this tapered form, which is conical, comes around and meets in the back. There's no way to make that perfectly parallel. So the way that that comes in on the back of all these, and every one is unique. This is not fake. This is not hydrographics. This is not IMD in mold decoration. This is real bamboo. Was an extraordinary feat. And there were like 10 trips to southern China for one of our designers just to work with this woodworking house down there. It's in the same region that that fabulous movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was filmed, where all these bamboo forests are. That was not CGI. We saw it. That exists. Even the people flying around in the air, floating. More robots, you know, the human touch. This comes down to the first food service robot. These are now in, what's that pizza shop? These are now being used in restaurants to deliver. This is a waiter, and it comes around the table. So it delivers food, and it doesn't quite pick up your plates, it doesn't quite bust, but people love the robot so much. They love the robot more than the waiter. So people will gladly put their dirty plates in this thing. It's fantastic. It's just like, what a great idea. And it's smart. Like, you know, it goes to the right table, brings you your food faster than the waiter can because it's linked to the kitchen, and it's a system. These kinds of things are coming. This is out, but you'll be seeing more and more of these. Sometimes you can create a connection with this thing called metaphor, which sometimes I think it's a little cheesy to do it, but sometimes it really works. I'll show you what I mean by that. These cameras are the best-selling security cameras that Cisco has ever produced. And one of our Japanese designers, Aki, started drawing these like dishes. Like literally they were dishes, and we were designing these commercial grade cameras that would be on the ceiling. And there was just so much elegance in them, and he was getting inspired by glassware and plates, and I wasn't quite sure if that was going to work yet. And he started showing us images like this, and he's talking about like the lens being like chocolate. That's when metaphor starts to actually work. These things in person are stunningly gorgeous. They're winning all these design awards. Just won Red Dot IF. It's extraordinary. But they're just we would typically see. It's really, I think it's always fun to take an old field where we are so biased with a stereotype about what something should look like, and you shake it up by saying, you know what, it doesn't have to be that way. It's like the baby bottle that I was talking about. That one, we propose that you fill it from the bottom instead of the top, and that the nipple is not just some tiny, stupid little thing on the top, but it actually turns into a complete breast. And it was like, wow, why wasn't that ever done before? And a company as big as Cisco looked at that and they were like, yeah, why not? It's elegant. That's a router. It has 4 antennas in each one of these wings. And their CEO looked at that thing and he's like, I don't know why, but that looks so aerial. It looks like it's ready to take off. And of course, it's all metaphor, right? So we're just trying to find some hidden meaning in something. I love this. They sell 2 million of these a month. This is the best-selling router in China. But it's just a router. Some of you might have these, the Brita Stream, the new Brita water. Does anybody have one of these? Water filters? Stream, yeah. So this was cool. Brita asked us, there's a whole line of these products, but Brita asked us, there's a design competition with some other design firm, and they said, we want each of you to come back and tell us, is the filter the hero or is the pitcher the hero? And we thought about it, and we went back after 2 weeks, and we said, neither one. The water is the hero. We need to get rid of the pitcher. We need to get rid of the filter. Of course, you can't get rid of the pitcher, but we could get the filter out of the water and bring the inside container that we all know when you pour water in, if you try to prematurely pour it, well, it comes out of the top. They don't work that well. So these filters are actually right up against the spout so that when you pour, it actually flows through the filter. And it makes all the difference. Now you can see the water from the top to the bottom. And this is now their best-selling water pitcher. The whole Stream, British Stream product line. But again, it's getting to that, finding what is the inner source of the problem, and coming in with a new perspective. They didn't realize that they had a problem. They had a really awesome filter as you pour idea. They liked the idea of filtering it as you pour. But our big objective was to now just really turn this into something that was like easy to understand, that was straightforward, that was unique, that hit all the right notes. And the best is when you can connect on like every level that I just talked about, bring them all together in single solutions. This is tonal. This is a device that's about 4 feet tall, just to give you a sense of scale. And it's about 4 inches deep. This is a home gym. You put it on your wall. Have you guys seen this? Oh, I'm surprised. You guys haven't seen this.
I've seen the commercials for this.
Yeah, the commercial was on the Super Bowl, actually, if you saw it there. It's very quiet when you're not using it. And these arms, these are columns that rotate out to give you sagittal movement like this. And then the arms go up and down on these shoulders. You can see the lock-in positions here. And then they rotate here. So the arms can go all the way up if you want to do lat pull downs like this. Or if you want to do goblet squats, you can lift from the bottom. If you want to do flies like this, every single workout you can do. But here's the cool thing. There are no weights inside this thing. None. The thing is relatively lightweight. The reason this works is there's cables that run from the ends of the arms, through the arms, up over the shoulder to a resistance motor right here that is software controlled. So now all of the interactions that you have are on this faceplate through a touchscreen display, which means you can also have live coaching. You get buff fast with this thing. We have 2 of these in the office, and look at me. Every single detail. This took us 3.5 years to do, and It is just, it's beautifully made. These are machined aluminum, cast stainless steel, pure glass on the front.
Introducing Tonal, the world's most intelligent fitness system. Tonal is a revolutionary digital weight machine with personal training built in. Get truly personalized full body programs that deliver real results quicker than ever before. Advanced intelligence monitors the quality of every rep, adapts guidance, and measures your progress in real time. Tonal is unlike any fitness equipment before. Let Tonal coach you to be stronger and leaner than you ever thought possible. Tonal, be your strongest.
They're doing really well. Tonal. We also work with Uber, and you think of Uber as just basically being a ride-share company, but when they ask us for, like, how can we expand the Uber brand, help us define, like, what a smart city is, how can you create products that extend beyond the automobile, and we found through a lot of our interviews that of Uber executives especially, that their big money maker is not the riders, it's the drivers. So they really need to make the acquisition of drivers much, much easier. So one of the pain points in becoming a driver is you need to go to a green light station, sign up, do all this stuff, and people just don't have the time to do that. So this concept was create a kiosk that could be in airports and malls, et cetera, that you can, there's actually several down here. Have you guys seen these? I'm not sure what this one is, but, and then of course, also offer additional services. Any other Uber service need to be also available on this device. Now, you don't think of Uber in a kiosk necessarily. Turns out that people really dig this thing because they're not a slave to their phone, and they're able to learn a lot more about the different services that Uber has. And it was just a different brand touch point. There's lighting around there, and they're very simple. They have to be vandal proof. Of course, when you're designing a public thing like this, these get beaten up, and you need to, again, be a smart designer when you're putting things like this together. You can't just think that, well, we'll just design something cool and it'll be out there. You either work it out. And then this is the new Uber beacon. You've seen the Lyft little pill. You're the first to see this. So Uber has a new brand, and their brand is very boxy. I don't know if you've been to the website recently. Has anybody been there where you order food through it? I mean, it's very clear, rectilinear, very architectural. And we just turned that into the light story. And this has got a display on the back of it now. And we also worked that out. The display on the back for the rider gives the riders all kinds of information about what might be happening right outside of the car, so that instead of opening your car door right into traffic, it does a lot of predictive analysis of what's going on. So there's a whole new way to interact. You can also see certain stats on the driver through this little thing. I can't believe nobody's ever done this before. But the inside display is actually very unique. So you'll be seeing these everywhere.